Welcome to the Game Found preview for Grimcoven. The campaign goes live on the 6th of June 2024.
Hello and welcome, I'm Mark from Ninja Geek Games. I'll be providing you with an overview of Grimcoven from Awaken Realms that hits Game Found on the 6th of June, and there'll be a link to the campaign in the description. So, what is Grimcoven? Well, it's a dark and gritty boss battler for 1 to 4 players set in a fantasy horror universe with a gothic Victorian theme, so already a lot to take in. Here you take on the role of hunters, experts in their field of combat, who sign a pact and then embark on a dangerous quest to locate and defeat grief-bound bosses. Let's take a closer look. What? You want me to sign something? Oh. Wait a minute, I can't sign this. I haven't got a pen. Ah, thank you. Ooh. Tastes like copper pennies. Okay, a boss battler. Whereas most dungeon crawlers require you to play through various stages of any given scenario that culminates in a boss fight, with Grimcoven you start the game with a boss already active on the map. What Awaken Realms are promising here is a number of maps with a variety of bosses that you can jump into as a standalone scenario without a scripted campaign. As we'll see, Grimcoven provides different map layouts, enemies to engage and hunters to select, as well as varied environmental counters, so each game will play differently from the last. Now, this is just a prototype of the game where I've been given 2 scenarios and 3 hunters to play with, so anything you see in this video with regards to rules and components will not be wholly representative of the finished product. And with that, are you in? All I need is a signature. One of the main aspects of the game so far is that when replaying the same scenario, some of the components will change, providing a different experience, and I thought I'd show you how this works with a quick overview of the setup. First of all, I've been given 2 scenario cards, the Convergence and the Undead General, so I can randomly select which to play. With each, you'll be instructed on how to lay out the map tiles, so that's pretty standard for each scenario. But you're also given a deck of environment cards where a number are randomly drawn for each game, and these can add interactive elements to the map for the hunters. These include extra tiles that expand the map, such as the witch house that hunters can visit and interact with, or specific encounters like the Forbidden Well, a carriage or a pile of skulls. These are represented by minis or tokens, and some environment cards will affect a particular tile hex or area on the map that triggers when the hunters enter. What's more, the map location of the environment elements will change with each game depending on the order in which you drew those cards, therefore providing changes in layout with varied combinations. The map is littered with tokens to include lament that fuels the in-game development of hunters, and treasures that provide some nice treats. Each scenario will have a number of portals used for travel, as well as, of course, enemies that include minions, elites and the grief-bound boss. The boss area comprises a large board with slots to place the boss tile you're facing, as well as their attack and stage cards. The area around the board holds the enemy and event cards. I've only been given the 1 elite enemy, but I have 2 different versions of minions to choose from just to spice things up, and these red tiles serve as a reminder to the order of the steps that you take during the enemy phase. Now for the hunters, you'll get a player board with your chosen hunter tile that shows their health, special ability and movement value. These are action slots for your hunter's dice, and this is the corruption track used for levelling up, and we also have an area to place any collected tokens. Each hunter has their own unique evolution deck used for character development, but you do start the game with an equipped weapon and armour action card. You actually have a number of these to choose from, so can customise your starting build, and they also indicate the dice sets that you begin the game with. From the setup, you can see the game promises variability, even within each scenario. We have a number of environmental elements that can be introduced, and their location will likely change with each play. The enemy event deck includes those specific to the boss you're fighting, mixed in with core game events, so again, I'm assuming this deck will change. Likewise, although elite enemies and minions are always present, their stats and abilities are dependent on the card type that you choose. For example, here, the minions are either bandits or murderers. So they're either enemies that are going to murder or already have, and either is not a good sign. With this prototype, I've been instructed to create the deck of boss attack cards in a particular way that leaves out quite a few, so I'm not sure whether bosses can turn up in different scenarios with a new set of skills, or including them increases the difficulty of the game. We'll see. Even for hunters, you get to choose what equipment you start with, and as they provide your initial pool of dice, they can immediately support your battle strategy. So even the two scenarios that I've been given, I've had quite different experiences with each game. How does the game play? Essentially, Grimcoven is a dice-based game including a little manipulation and even card play to some extent. The game is split into two phases, one for the hunters to act and the other for the enemies. During the hunter phase, you'll get to fuel character development by filling the corruption track with any collected lament and then possibly evolve, gaining either new action cards or dice. However, with great power comes great responsibility, for irreverence runs deep within our veins. As we'll see, being able to open options for future actions and even morphing your hunter into more formidable warriors is pretty cool, but corruption comes at a cost. Hunters then get to use their dice, taking turns to carry out two actions until both players decide to pass, and these actions include moving, attacking and fortifying. During the enemy phase, events may be drawn and both minions and elites will carry out actions, usually moving and attacking. The boss then gets to activate by carrying out the actions on their attack cards, and there are always two face up. This means you have some idea of what the boss will do beforehand, and it's these cards that the hunters need to attack in order to defeat the boss. Each boss tile also has a time track. When moved, it will spawn minions onto the map, activate a special ability, and even level up the boss through the development of stage cards, and these are never pleasant. First, I'll discuss how the hunters take actions and then go back and show you how they level up. After rolling your pool of dice, each hunter can take two actions, followed by the next, and this continues until all players are unable to act or choose to pass. To take an action, you place the die in one of the action slots on the hunter board or weapon cards and must match the symbol if shown. Some actions require only one dice, but others need two or more to be able to activate. Each coloured die is primarily set for a particular action for sprinting, defence, attack and cleansing, although they all have a secondary icon as well. The move and sprint action allows your hunter to run around the map, moving from hex to hex and possibly collect lament tokens. But sprinting not only increases your movement value by one, but also is the only way that you can move through portals, and this is good for covering great distances or getting out of trouble. You can interact with the environment terrain that may require you to draw story cards in the form of a side quest or activate a hex for an effect. Treasures can also be revealed by providing little pick-me-ups like healing or action dice. The tactic icon provides one tactic token that can later be used to re-roll your pool of dice, and the cleanse removes any unwanted status tokens. These status tokens are a pain and usually dealt by enemies or as a result of you increasing your corruption. There are quite a few types where hunger forces you to move and attack your allies at the start of a round, burn inflicts wounds, and stun blocks your dice slots, reducing the number of available actions that you can take. You can even give your assist token to another player, where they can make use of the symbol of the dice used, which is a good way of helping out your fellow hunter for that sorely needed action. Your weapon cards provide means of attacking enemies or gaining armor tokens. Anytime you gain armor, you take the relevant shield tokens, and these can be used when an enemy inflicts wounds. Instead of taking hits, you remove these to absorb the damage, although they only come in 2s and 4s, so it's very likely you'll have to overspend. To attack an enemy, the action will indicate the damage it deals and the range your hunter needs to be within, and this differs with each action and even between hunters. For any attacks at range, you'll need to have line of sight, as some hexes and terrain will block your view, and enemies can also have armor tokens, reducing the number of hits that they take. Minions are usually eliminated with one hit, but elites are more robust, having a higher health value. But to attack a boss, you need to select one of the two face-up attack cards on the boss board. Each card will show a different body part or organ as well as the health value, and you can select whichever card you want. If you're able to take out a boss attack card, it's removed from the game, and it's this deck of cards that provides the overall health of the boss. Remove every card and you win the game. For hunter actions, they're actually quite straightforward, but your strategy relies on the order you wish to take them, especially with a limited pool of dice. Spending all dice to attack is a great way of removing enemies and weakening the boss, but it leaves you exposed to their attacks, which are devastating if you haven't prepped with any armour. Therefore, hunter combat is simple but a slow grind, and you need to find ways of getting the most out of your action cards with special abilities, and I'll talk about those later. As for the boss, you get to choose one of the two cards to attack. This becomes a very important decision because it depends on how much damage you can do. If during the hunter phase all players in the game are confident that the combined attacks this round can take out a boss card, then the card you choose will likely depend on its health value or how powerful it is. This is the card the boss will attack with this round, and this is the card it will attack with on the next. If you take out the card in the this turn slot, the boss reveals a standard and consistent attack for its action in the enemy phase, where it then gets covered as cards shift at the end of the round. If you eliminate the attack card in the slot for the next turn, there's nothing underneath, but this attack action still takes place and the cards will shift again. Wait, we still have some more decisions to make. If you've panicked and as a group calculated poorly by landing hits on a boss attack card but not enough to eliminate it by the end of the round, it may shift off the boss board, where those hits are then lost. Essentially, the boss is regenerated and the card will come back around later fresh as a daisy. But this doesn't mean if you can't eliminate a card in one round, don't attack. It means you may need to start peppering the card in the next turn slot, and this will then give you 2 rounds to take it out. Now, some of the more hideous actions on a boss card can become void if they've taken just a couple of hits. Therefore, it may be prudent to ensure you've done some damage to that card to reduce its advantage, and then focus your attacks on the other card. Either way, combat is slick and effective, but does require forward thinking and planning, and it's not only the boss that you need to think about. Regardless, if you eliminate a minion, elite or boss card, then your party get to share the spoils of claiming lament tokens. At the start of each hunter phase, you get to place collected lament tokens on your corruption track. Every time you cover an evolution space, you immediately evolve. You're able to draw cards from your hunter deck and select one to your play area. These then provide additional and usually better actions or ongoing passive abilities. If you don't want a card, you can instead choose a die of any colour to add to your pool. Therefore, as the game progresses, you'll end up with an array of action cards and dice, allowing you to create some pretty sickening combos during your turn. What's more, reach this space and your hunter evolves into a badass corrupted version of itself. This increases your health and boosts your standard ability, plus gives you an awesome upgraded version of your mini. I take corruption for that. However, your corruption level may hinder you. Each round you draw a corruption card and carry out the effect related to your level. These can deal wounds, statuses or worse, force you to lose a die. As you start to collect evolution cards and dice, you can create some nice combos for your actions. Some cards provide tokens that can be spent during other actions to increase the range of your attack, damage value or bend the rules in some way. Therefore, when you level up, as you can pick and choose between 2 cards and dice, you can create a really developed hunter and lean towards a particular style of play. So, the enemy phase. Let me tell you, they're not soft and are hell-bent on putting the hurt on, so be prepared. The boss follows 5 steps, where first any revealed events are activated. These can activate enemies or cause some other dire effects to take place. Minions and elites will then get to move and attack. Depending on the enemy type you selected, they each take one of their many actions, whichever can be fully resolved first. These will generally swarm you and inflict wounds and statuses, as well as buffing themselves with armour. The boss attacks with the card in the rightmost slot on the boss board. Again, this moves the boss around the map and allows for attacks, but you have to carry out every single action on that card. Therefore, they are devastating, dealing a great deal of damage and can even attack multiple hunters at once. For enemy attacks, some require the roll of a special pool of dice and the outcome depends on the symbol rolled, and you apply all results. Therefore, you'll never truly know what damage you'll take. Also, some boss cards have the focused keyword. Normally, you carry out all actions on a boss attack card, but if you've managed to pepper it with some damage, then this keyword can be ignored for that turn. These cards then get shifted, revealing new attacks for the next round. The last step is the time track. This will move one space that draws events for the next round, activates a boss ability, and even reveals a stage card. These are nasty little things that have ongoing effects and stay in place for the remainder of the game. The time track can also spawn hordes of minions, so just as you thought your head was above water, you quickly become overwhelmed again. The game continues with the hunter and enemy phases until either the boss is defeated or at least one hunter has been eliminated. If you lose all your health, you do get another go, but in a critical condition, and the boss also has a nasty trick up its sleeve. Just as you think you've done it, removed all boss attack cards, it has one last search. Each boss has a final attack card that has boosted health and attacks that you need to defeat. It never shifts, but the boss is not defeated while this card is in play, so you're quite literally sat on the edge of your seat at this stage. I've been given two bosses to look at, the Convergence and the Undead General. Both are brutal in their own way and also provide a unique experience. Convergence will constantly move around the board and has these tornado minis that blast through the map causing burn, whereas the Undead General brings in the Banner of War cards for support, and you're best keeping those face down if you can. The Hunters are great and all awesome to play as. We have the Gunslinger, who is able to attack at range and makes use of bullet tokens. These can be discarded to boost damage or provide some cool abilities like heal or shoot around corners. Duality seems to be the tank and is able to absorb hits, and can claim wing tokens to increase armour or damage values. The Technomancer is like Tesla on steroids. They get a special dice to use, which is great as it allows activation of all card bonus abilities from one action, and they can teleport around the map taking other hunters with them. To put it simply, in Grimcoven you can't go around looking to smash the boss every round. You need to prep, take out the minions and elite, and then grind the boss down. There is little healing in the game. Some actions may heal 1 or 2 damage, but you need to rely on armour tokens. Being able to look at the boss's current and next round attack cards is a bonus. You absolutely must take note of this to keep the hunters out of range or allow the tank to take the hit. More often than not, you'll get slammed with status tokens. I actually like the premise behind the hunger token, forcing you to move and attack allies, but you do get the option to remove these before your first action of a round. The environment cards put a nice spin on the scenarios, and some of the resulting terrain pieces require you to draw a story card. What I like here is that there are multiple story cards per event, so this enables even greater variability with each session, which is a nice touch. You might meet a broken carriage and have to drag it to a particular location, or raid a witch's house, and all of these are optional. Now, it's a busy game, and at times you do have a lot of information to take in, from boss attack cards, events, which minions will take a particular action, and if any stage cards are active, which then had me worried for solo play. Here you could take full control of 2 hunters, although I think this may be a lot to take on. However, Awaken Realms have provided a good solution for your ally. Here you select your main hunter, but the second hunter plays as a deputy. They don't use dice and instead use wild tokens, so you don't need to worry about the icons on them. They only get 2 of these tokens at the start of the game, but can evolve with a deck of deputy cards and gain more dice tokens to use. Although it seems a simpler version of a standard hunter and they initially have less actions to take, they are quite strong characters, so it feels well balanced. Each game I've played has taken at least 2 hours and I found it quite engaging. I hope this video provided you with a good overview of Grimcoven and what we're expecting. It's set to hit GameFound on the 6th of June, and again there'll be a link to the campaign in the description. Thanks for watching. Cheers.